My sister-in-law just bought this lovely beach shack on the Norfolk coastline, and she's asked me to do a few jobs for her, the first of which is to build some banquette style seating along this wall with built-in storage, and then just beneath the window here she wants some kind of fold down shelf. I had an 8x2 left over from a previous job which has been taking up quite a bit of space on my timber rack, so I'm going to be ripping this down into lengths of 3x2 and 2x2 for this project. Starting with the 3x2, this will make up the backrest and back legs of the seating. Standard seat height is around 470mm, but I'm going to mark this up a little less than that to allow for the thickness of the board that will be added to this later. And I'll cut a housing joint here to accommodate the 2x2 timber, which will be used for the rest of the framing. I also want to mark up a taper, starting from just above that housing joint, again by the thickness of the board that will be on top, tapering down to almost nothing at the top, which will give me roughly a 10-degree angle for what will later be the backrest. I squared that across the other face and then clamped the rest of the timbers together so that I can cut the joinery to all the pieces together all at the same time. With the backrests done, I can use 2x2 for the rest of the framing. I'll make the first of what will be 2 ladder frames. This one is to make up the seat part of the frame, and the bit protruding here at the end will make sense later. This should now slot nicely into my back leg pieces, and I can determine how high the studs for my second ladder frame will need to be. This one is going to be for the front panel. And then I can do a dry assembly and measure up for some noggins which will run between the front panel and the back legs. I want to cut a diagonal piece here at the end. I'm going to want another diagonal here at the bottom, but I need to make sure that this is in line with this one. So if I add this last leg, which hopefully should just stay in place with friction, you'll see here that I need to offset it by this amount. So I'm going to rip down a little block to use as a spacer. No one's ever going to see this, just by the way. The diagonal can then get cut exactly the same size and angle as the first one, which should keep everything good and true. Now I want to cut a board for the seat. So if I measure the span here, and then I'm going to add 30mm, just so that I have an overhang at the front. I also need to measure the length, and again I'll add 30mm at the end. Now normally I would want to use some 18mm sheet material for this, but it doesn't look like I have any in stock at the moment. And besides, the way I'm going to put it together, it's going to be reinforced on the inside anyway. I do have a piece of 12mm ply up here, which looks like it's going to be perfect. But why is it always the piece on the bottom that I need? I cut a block to the same size as the overhang at the front so that I can scribe the same distance onto the diagonal. Then I went to find a piece of timber to laminate to that front edge, which will make the ply more rigid and also make it look more chunky. I'm then using another spacer block to scribe where I want to make some cuts for some doors that will open from the top to give access to storage on the inside. For the backrest, I had a piece of 18mm MR MDF And I want to transfer the angle onto the bottom edge here so that it meets the board on the seat without leaving any gaps. I got the panels primed with some acrylic primer. Not only will this prepare the wood for paint, but it will also highlight any small gaps and imperfections that need filling. Once that's dry, everything gets denibbed with 240 grit. Now, using some old salvaged pine bed slats, I'm going to fit these to the underside of the seat. And this will do three things. It will reinforce the seat, making it stronger. And I'm aiming for about an 8mm lip here, all the way around each hatch. Which brings me on to its second purpose, to give the doors something to close onto. And finally, it will also give more material for the screws to bite into when I add the hinges. I just want to make sure that this doesn't interfere with the frame of the seat, and that all looks good. And while I'm here, I may as well reinforce that end section too. Then I could get a top coat of satin wood paint on. Usually I would use a roller here, but I think hand painted is better for beach shack vibes. I'll use some folded paper as shims to get the spacing equal. And I'm going to fit these piano hinges with some teeny tiny screws. And I am aware that self-centering drill bits exist, by the way. I'll go with a simple 25mm diameter finger hole. I'll show the making of the shelf later in the video, but for now, I'll get the car packed up and head over there to install. Just before I get the car unloaded, my wife's car is 14 years old. Its MOT is due next week, and we're at the stage now where we're thinking, do we sink more money into it, or do we look for a replacement? Buying an older used car is obviously a massive gamble, and Car Vertical pulls data from over 900 sources across over 30 countries to cover things like past accidents, odometer rollbacks, and even theft records. Take a look at this report for a VW Golf. Even though it looked like a clean car, the report shows a major damage alert and a mileage discrepancy that just doesn't add up. It's the only way to see the car's real story. And the Car Vertical scoring system makes it easy to spot which cars are decent and which are the lemons. If you're worried about wasting money on a report that comes back empty, if a report has no historical data on the mileage or accidents, Car Vertical automatically refunds those reports. My main advice is to leave no car unchecked. Don't just check one car. Check your top 2 or 3 for peace of mind. You can use my promo code RAGANDBONE to get a 20% discount on a single report, but you'll get the most value from purchasing a bundle, which can save you up to 50%. Check the link in the description or the pinned comment and leave no mysteries unresolved. I'm going to start with a dry assembly just to make sure that everything is the correct size. I'm going to need to move this socket, but that should be easy because it looks like all of the cabling is flush mounted. I'm going to need to chop a couple of millimeters off the top of these. Now that I can see this installed, I think I'm going to add another timber here. So at the moment this is assembled as its own freestanding unit. I need to secure it to the wall, but I want to do it in a way that if anyone ever wants to take this out, it should be straightforward. So I think I'm going to do it so that when you lift the storage hatch, there'll be a couple of screws on the inside securing it to the wall. These screws at the back will be hidden when the backrest panel goes in. And then some screws at the front which I can fill. So it looks like it would just about clear right here. As you can see, it's fine over here, but this piece dips down quite a lot. It looks like I'm gonna have to take about 6 or 7 mil off. So I think I'm just gonna attempt to kind of scribe this to the shape needed. Trouble is, I didn't bring my jigsaw. That's not perfect, but it will do. Now apparently I can use any of this salvaged wood in the build as well. This is stuff that was ripped out of the shack when my sister-in-law took it on. And there's a lot of rot, nails and big thick gloopy paint drips to tackle here. But underneath is some good quality redwood shiplap. It certainly would have been quicker and easier to prepare a piece of MDF for this, but where would the fun be in that? Looks like I'll have more than enough here, but before I fit it, I need to cut the end away. I didn't realise until after I'd fitted all this that it actually would have looked better if I'd have flipped each board by 180 degrees. There would be fewer gaps visible, but by this point I didn't fancy ripping it all out again, and I can fill any gaps anyway. At this point it started raining, so I did what every British person should do while by the seaside. I was about to fix this when I realised I hadn't yet cut it to length. After filling all the nail holes, I used decorator's caulk on the shiplap. In my experience, this stuff will shrink and crack and need to be topped up and repainted again in a few weeks' time. I needed a piece of trim up here, and fortunately I'd brought a few pieces of moulding with me. Then I needed to make an end panel and get everything prepared for paint. A final piece of moulding tidies everything up at the bottom. I used some grab adhesive to fix it. Now let's hop back in time to the workshop when I made the shelf. I have a slab of beech that I think I'm going to use to make the fold-up worktop, and I don't want these big cracks in it, so I think I'm going to rip this into 3 strips and then laminate it. This slab is about 30mm thick, so I made multiple passes with the track saw to get through it, giving me a straight edge that I can run along the table saw fence to rip it into 3 pieces. And I want to take this down to about 22mm, which is going to need a lot of passes through the thicknesser. And once my faces are straight, I can straighten the edges so that I can glue these together with no gaps. And I ended up not having quite enough material to work with due to those cracks being so big, so off camera I prepared another piece which was a little darker in colour, but that won't matter because I'll be adding a die to this top anyway. I decided to use some dominoes on the edges to keep all of the boards aligned with one another. The front edge gets a big round over to make it more comfortable for elbows. And then I get it cut to length. I mixed up some dark and medium oak dyes to get what I thought would be a good colour match for the kitchen worktop at the shack. It's important to work quickly and maintain a wet edge when applying this, and for some reason this timber was incredibly thirsty, which made it quite tricky, so I did the best I could to get an even application. That took around 5 hours to dry, and then I applied a first coat of hard wax oil, which I left overnight to cure. The first coat always looks a bit uneven, so a quick denib with 240 grit, and then I applied a second coat with a maroon abrasive pad, and this time I'll remove any excess with a cotton cloth and leave it for a few hours to dry. Right, time to look at fitting this shelf, and I've got some folding brackets here. The problem I think I'm going to have is finding the studs in the wall. I've got a bunch of magnets here, and I've already run these all over the wall in the hope that I might pick up a nail or a screw or something to tell me where the studs are, but nothing. I've also brought with me my stud detector, but to be honest, I've not had much luck with this in the past. And I can't show a stud detector without doing the usual joke. Oh, it's found one. So apparently there is one here, which would make sense. It's saying there's also one here. It also says there's one here, which is unlikely. I mean, these two marks here are 500mm apart, so that kind of would make sense. But really the only way to find out is to drill some holes. That's timber, so these brackets have a mechanism built into them which allows them to lock in place at 90 degrees, and then you can release it like that. I got these on Amazon and I'll leave a link to them in the description box. Aha, I found timber. Like a glove. So now with a bit of luck, that works okay. Right, so this project isn't totally complete yet. Unfortunately, I ran out of decorator's caulk halfway through the job and it could use another coat of paint. My sister-in-law is going to be getting some cushions installed to this as well, so it should be nice and comfortable. Hopefully, she'll be happy with this. I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.